Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a world where the students are evolving faster than the teachers can even write the exams.
That's a great way to put it.
That's really the core dilemma facing vision language models, VLMs, today.
It absolutely is.
I mean, models like Llama, GPT-4o, Claude,
Yeah.
they're achieving new levels of sophistication practically every week. But the way we grade them, the traditional human-labeled data,
It becomes obsolete almost before the ink is dry. It's an evaluation crisis. These VLM judges or reward models are essential for quality, but training them has always meant this massive, expensive data collection process.
where humans just sit there and say, I prefer A over B.
Exactly, and that's slow. It's wildly expensive. It's completely incompatible with how fast these models are developing.
So today's deep dive is into a paper from Fair at Meta and the University of Washington that seems to offer a way out, a pretty revolutionary one.
They're proposing VLM judges that can self-train
So the AI can essentially grade itself.
and align itself, yeah, all without relying on those costly, labor-intensive human annotations. The whole mission was to build a self-sufficient iterative framework.
One that doesn't need external data or bigger models to work.
Right, it just uses the base VLM's own generations, and what a clever heuristics, it just cuts out the dependency.
And the result here is, it's pretty staggering.
Hmm.
We're looking at a relatively compact Llama 3.2 11B model.
A small model in today's terms.
Right. And after going through this self-training, its accuracy on the VL reward bench just shot up from, what, 0.38 to 0.51?
A massive jump. And it's not just a number. On key tasks, this little 11B model started outperforming systems many, many times its size.
Like which ones?
We're talking about beating the massive Llama 3.290B model and even going toe-to-toe with proprietary leaders like Claude 3.5 Sonnet. It just shows that smart data generation can beat raw scale.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics. The whole approach is iterative, and it seems almost elegant in its simplicity. It's a three-stage process where the model teaches itself. What's the core philosophy there?
The key idea, the philosophy, is basically trusting that the model can tell the difference between good and bad if you prompt it correctly. It can construct outputs that have a clear quality difference, and that becomes its own preference signal.
Its own good versus bad examples.
So there's that.
And this starts in stage 1, synthetic preference pair generation. I see they split this into two types of tasks, open-ended and closed-ended. Let's start with the open-ended ones, like long answers or image captions. How do you create a clear mistake there?
So this is where something called error injection comes in, and it's very targeted. First, the base VLM generates a high-quality response, let's call it T.
Okay, the good one.
Right. Then it's prompted again with really specific instructions to introduce meaningful, consistent errors into a second version, T prime.
So it's not just write this badly. The errors are designed to test something specific.
Exactly. They're designed to test the model's visual grounding. The errors may be swapping object attributes, like changing a red car to a blue one, or altering spatial relationships, moving something from the foreground to the background.
Or just hallucinating something that isn't there at all.
Precisely. It forces the judge to actually look at the image to decide.
Can you give us a concrete example?
Sure. Take an image of a city skyline. The good response, T, might say, a bustling downtown area with modern skyscrapers reaching 40 to 50 stories.
Right.
The prompt to create the bad response might tell it to inject a major factual error. So T prime comes back describing a quiet suburban area with colonial buildings reaching 10 to 15 stories.
Which is just factually wrong if you look at the image.
Completely wrong. And now you have a perfect training pair where the only way to get the right answer is to rely on visual evidence.
That's a really clever solution for those open-ended tests.
Yeah.
But what about the closed-ended ones? Numerical answers, multiple choice, where descriptive errors don't really work.
Yeah, for those cases, they lean on majority voting. Error injection isn't the right tool there. So instead, the VLM generates a whole bunch of answers for the same prompt. In the paper, it was n equals 16 responses.
16 different tries at the same question.
Right. And the answer that the majority of those responses agree on, that becomes the preferred answer.
And a random other one becomes the less preferred. So you're not using an external ground truth. You're just trusting the model's own internal consistency.
That's it exactly. Consensus becomes a proxy for correctness. And as we'll see, it turns out to be a much more reliable signal for training.
Okay, so the model has made its own textbook. But here's the part that seems tricky. If it's writing its own textbook, how do you stop it from just reinforcing its own bad habits? Stage 2, judge training data generation. seems to be all about quality control.
It is. This is the crucial filtering step. The judge model from the previous iteration takes a look at these new synthetic pairs. It generates its reasoning, its justification, and then its final decision.
And they only keep the ones where the judge gets it right.
That's the first filter, yes. If the judge says the error-injected caption is better, that data point is just thrown out immediately. But then they have to deal with a really common problem in these models: positional bias.
Ah, right. The
Yeah.
tendency for the model to just prefer the first option it sees, no matter
It's
what.
like AI test fatigue, yeah. So to get around this, they put the judge through a much tougher test. It has to evaluate each pair twice
In both orders.
in both orderings.
Mm.
Preferred first, then less preferred first. And they only keep the pairs where the judge gets the answer right both times.
Wow. So it's not enough to be right once. The preference has to be immune to the sequence. What does that actually teach the judge?
It forces the judge to learn the real quality difference based on deep reasoning signals, like factual grounding or coherence, instead of just superficial things like token order. It's a really robust way to bootstrap quality.
And then in stage 3, you fine-tune the model on the super-curated, bias-free dataset. And the whole loop repeats until performance just plateaus.
And you can actually see the filter getting better. As the judge improves, it gets better at recognizing its own good reasoning. The amount of data they kept, it went from about 19% at the start to over 42% by the 4th iteration.
So it's learning to be a better student of its own material.
A better student and a better teacher. Manual checks confirmed it too. The reasoning quality itself was genuinely improving. It's this beautiful, closed-loop system of refinement.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
this framework isn't just an academic curiosity. It's a real challenge to the big proprietary evaluation system.
Absolutely. That 40% relative gain in accuracy is impressive, but when you break it down by skill, that's where you really see it shine.
So where did this self-trained 11B model really punch above its weight?
The biggest one was in general instruction following. This is, a key metric for how well a VLM can understand and actually execute diverse instructions. And our self-trained 11B judge substantially outperformed the 90B Llama model, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and even GPT-4o on this.
Get out.
Really. The 11B judge scored 0.503, which was significantly higher than Claude at 0.434 and GPT-4o at 0.491. The self-training created a better general-purpose assessor.
Which sort of validates those initial data strategies we talked about.
It does. We saw big gains in hallucination detection, which validates the error injection, and strong performance in VQA, which validates the majority voting.
Okay, let's pause on that majority voting for a second, because this might be the most counterintuitive part of the whole paper. Why did relying on the model's internal consensus work better for training than filtering using the actual Oracle ground truth answers?
It's a fantastic question, and it tells us so much about alignment. What the researchers found was that filtering by external correctness, it doesn't always select for the best reasoning.
Meaning the judge could get the right answer for a completely wrong or unhelpful reason.
Exactly. They had this perfect example with numerical transcription. The judge correctly picks the right answer, response B, but when you looked at its reasoning, it completely missed the factual error in response A, an extra 0.
So why did it pick B?
It said response B was better because it had additional descriptive details and contextual observations. It picked the answer that was more verbose and sounded nicer, not the one that was factually correct.
That's terrifying. Because if you train a judge to do that, you're not training for accuracy, you're training for stylistic flair.
You're training for beautifully written nonsense, and that's the insight. The correctness of the final answer doesn't guarantee the validity of the reasoning behind it. Majority voting, on the other hand, it implicitly filters for consistency, for robustness. It forces the judge to evaluate the structural quality of the response, not just its outcome.
So consistency can be a stronger signal for good reasoning than correctness. That's a huge takeaway.
And it leads right into the practical side of things. I mean, we have to talk about the costs.
Let's do that. What kind of savings are we actually talking about here, moving from humans to this self-training loop?
It's monumental. They estimated the GPU cost for their entire pipeline was incredibly low. To get equivalent high-quality human preference data, you could be spending anywhere from $500,000 to over $1 million.
$1 million? Wow.
Even using a big proprietary model like GPT-4 to label your data can run you $5,000 to $10,000. This method is a tiny fraction of that cost.
So it's not just better, it's orders of magnitude cheaper.
Precisely. It basically democratizes high-fidelity evaluation. It makes it possible to iterate and deploy quickly, especially for new tasks where you might not even have ground truth answers yet.
Okay, but as impressive as the gains are, the paper is also pretty honest about where this self-improvement hit a wall. What were the limitations?
The most significant one was in safety. Performance on the MMRB safety benchmark. It barely moved. It went from 0.317 to just 0.329.
Why so little improvement there when it works so well everywhere else?
It comes down to the methodology. The synthetic data it created was all general purpose. It was focused on accuracy, visual grounding, instruction following.
It wasn't designed to create harmful content.
It didn't have prompts to generate biased or toxic content to create those less preferred safety pairs.
Yeah.
To improve on safety, you need specialized data. You need red teaming. You need to explicitly teach guardrails. And that was just outside the scope of this approach.
So if you want the judge to spot safety failures, you have to show it safety failures. Makes sense.
What else?
The other area was on the MMRB general benchmark. Performance there was also pretty flat. The researchers think it's a classic domain mismatch issue.
Meaning the training data didn't look like the test data?
Essentially, yeah. Their training data just lacked the sheer visual and object diversity that was in the evaluation set. So the takeaway is that even with this brilliant framework, you still need to feed it a really diverse diet of images to get that true world-scale generalization.
So this self-improvement loop raises a fascinating philosophical question for you to think about. The success of this human annotation-free method suggests we're getting closer to a future where AI evaluation is just self-perpetuating. We are. If the AI is making its own tests and refining its own sense of quality, its evolution isn't tied to the slow, human-in-the-loop process anymore. As the models get better, their ability to self-assess gets better right alongside them.
So to sum up, we've seen how strategic self-generated data, using error injection for open tasks and consensus voting for closed tasks, can train an incredibly effective VLM judge. It lets a compact 11B model leapfrog competitors that are much, much larger.
And the key breakthrough is that learning the quality of the reasoning is more important than just checking the correctness of an answer. The cost efficiency alone makes this a paradigm shift for how we're going to develop these models going forward.
Which leaves you with a final thought to mull over. If an AI judge can consistently filter for better reasoning than a simple correctness check, what does that imply about what we should be looking for in general intelligence? Is consistency, that ability to agree with itself across many tries, a truer marker of robust intelligence than any single external label we could give it? You might want to think about how that principle of consensus could apply not just to AI alignment, but to how we think about intelligence itself.